This video is the next video in the simultaneous equations set of videos. In particular, this video is looking at problems leading to simultaneous equations, which is basically just looking at word or real life examples of simultaneous equations. These type of questions will give you a scenario, you have to form the simultaneous equations, then you solve the simultaneous equation exactly like we would have done in the last few examples. There's two key words that we need to be really careful of when we're doing these types of questions. The first one is the word sum, and the second one is the word difference. So the word sum just means adding, and the word difference means subtracting. So if you're given a question and it says get the sum of two numbers, you just add the two numbers together. And if you're doing a question and it says get the difference of two numbers, you take the two numbers away. The best way of getting used to these, or how to do these questions, is by doing examples. So here in example 1, it says the sum of two numbers is 41 and the difference is 5. Find the numbers. Now, it doesn't give us what the numbers are, but when we don't know numbers in maths, we label them different things. So we have the numbers x and y. Now, it says the sum of two numbers is 41. So if we go x, and we know the word sum is adding, so it's x plus y is equal to 41. Then it says their difference, so we take them away. So x minus y is going to give us 5. Now we have a pair of simultaneous equations, so we solve it as normal. Now we have our 5 steps when we have simultaneous equations. The first step is number of y's the same. Step 2 is sign in front of y is different. Step 3, we eliminate y. Step 4, we find x. And step 5, we find y. So then, doing this question here, it says the number of y is the same. Now we know when we have x's and y's that have no number in front of them, there's a 1. So this is 1x plus 1y equals 41, and 1x minus 1y equals 5. Step 1 then again, we have to get the number in front of y has to be the same. And you can see here that the number in front of y is 1 in the first equation, and the number in front of y is 1 in the second equation. So that's already done for us. Step 2 says the signs in front of y have to be different. So here we have 1x plus y equals 41, and then 1x minus 1y equals 5. So we have plus 1y and minus 1y. So the signs are different. So that's step 2 done. Then we do step 3, so we eliminate the y, and we do that by adding everything together. So 1x plus 1x will give us 2x. 1y minus 1y, that will give us 0y, so we don't need to write that down. And then 41 plus 5 gives us 46. So what we're left with then is we have, well, 2x equals 46. We need to get x by itself, so we can divide both sides by 2, and we'll end up that x is equal to 23. Then that's step 3, eliminating, and step 4, finding x done. The last thing we need to do is we need to find what y is. So we take one of the equations, which is, we'll take the first one, so x plus y is equal to 41. And we sub in the x, which we now know is 23. So we have 23 plus y is equal to 41. So we take 23 from both sides, and we're left with y is equal to 41 take 23, which will give us an answer of 18. So the answer for this simultaneous equation then is x equal to 23 and y equal to 18. And we've completed all the steps. Example 2 here now, before we started, we're going to recap the 2 key words. So we have sum, which is adding, and the difference, which is subtracting. So in example 2 here it says, find two numbers such that the first number added to 3 times the second number is 31. While 3 times the first number less twice the second is 16. Now we've 2 numbers, so we're going to call the 2 numbers x and y. So they're the 2 numbers. Now it says the first number, which is x, added, that's fine, that's just plus, to 3 times the second number. Now the second number is y, and 3 times y is 3y. And it tells us that that's equal to 31. While 3 times the first number, so that's 3 times the first number, which is x, so 3x, less. Now, less is another word, so that's minus, take away, twice the second. So 2 times y is equal to 16. Again, this is going to take a bit of time to get used to and understanding exactly what's going on. So it's just getting used to the different terms and the different words that they're using. But when it talks about the two numbers, always label the two numbers x and y. Again, we have a simultaneous equation and we have our 5 steps. So step 1 is y's the same number. Step 2, y's have a different sign. Step 3, we eliminate y. Step 4, we find x. And then step 5, we find y. Now, then what we have to do is we just solve this simultaneous equation like we would any normal one. So step 1 says the number in front of y has to be the same. So what we have here is we have on the top one we have 3y and on the bottom one we have 2y. So they're obviously different. So we multiply the top one by 2, which is the bottom number, and the bottom one by 3, which is the top number. So all the terms in the first equation we multiply by 2. So x by 2 is going to be 2x. 3 by 2 is going to be 6, so we have 6y is equal to 31 by 2, which will give us 62. Then 3 by 3, which will give us 9, so we have 9x. 3 by 2, which will give us minus 6y, is equal to 16 by 3, which will give us 48. Now, so then we check we've got step 1 correct, so y has to be the same number. And if you look at the two y values here, we have a 6 in front of it in the top equation and a 6 in front of it in the bottom equation. So that's step 1 done. Step 2, the y's have to have a different sign. And if you look here, we have plus 6y on the top and minus 6y on the bottom. So step 2 is grand and all finished. Then we move on to step 3. And step 3 is eliminating y. So we add all the terms. So we have 2x plus 9x, which gives us 11x, 6y minus 6y, which is going to give us 0y, so we don't need to write that down. So then we get that's equal to 110. So we now have that 11x is equal to 110. We need to find what x is, so we can divide both sides by 11. We'll then end up that x is equal to 10. Looking at what we've done then, so we've eliminated y in step 3, and we've also found x in step 4. Then we take one of the equations from the start, so I'm going to take the top equation, x plus 3y is equal to 31, and we replace our x with x in this equation. So we get 10, and that's plus 3y is equal to 31. So we need the 3y to be on one side and everything else to be on the other, so we minus 10 from both sides. So we get 3y is equal to 21. We can divide both sides by 3. And now we'll get that y is equal to 7. So then the answer for these questions then, we have x is equal to 10 and y is equal to 7. Example 3 is a little bit different than the other two examples that we've had. Here it says 3 nuts and 6 bolts have a combined weight of 72 grams. 4 nuts and 5 bolts have a combined weight of 66 grams. Find the combined weight of 1 nut and 1 bolt. So here our unknowns is the weight of the nuts and the bolts. So I'm going to label x equal to the nuts and y equal to the bolts. So what it says here is 3 nuts, so 3 times x, and 6 bolts. So we have 6 times the bolts, which we labeled y, have a combined weight. So when you add them together, they give you 72. Now we have 4 nuts, so this time it's 4x, plus 5 bolts, so plus 5 bolts, so 5y, is equal to 66. Now again, we have a simultaneous equation, so we have our 5 steps. Step 1 is y has to be the same number. Step 2, y has to have different signs. step 3, we need to eliminate y. Step 4, we need to find x. And step 5, finally, we need to find y. Here, what we have is we have two simultaneous equations, and the first thing we have to do for step 1 is the y needs to be the same number. You can see here that we have 6y and 5y, so they're not the same number. So to get them the same number, we multiply the top line by the number in front of y in the bottom line, and we multiply the number in front of y in the bottom line by the number in front of y in the top line. So the bottom line is by 6. Figuring that out then, we have 3 by 5, which will give us 15. So we have 15x plus 6 times 5, which will give us 30, so 30y, is equal to 72 times 5, which is 360. Then we have 4 times 6, which will give us 24. 5 times 6, which will give us 30y. And then 66 times 6, which will give us 396. Now we can check if we've done step 1. So we need to have y the same number. Here we have 15x plus 30y equals 360 and 24x plus 30y equals 396. So the y's here are both 30, so that's perfect. Step 1 is done. Step 2 then is y has to have different signs. And if you see here, we have plus 30y on the top and plus 30y on the bottom. So we can just multiply either the top or the bottom line by minus 1. So what we'll be left with then is 15x plus 30y is equal to 360, and on the bottom minus 24x minus 30y is equal to minus 396. Then we can eliminate y. We've got step 2 done because the signs are different, so we can underline and add the terms. So we have 15x minus 24x gives us minus 9x. 30y minus 30y will give us 0. And 360 minus 396 will give us minus 36. So we're left with minus 9x is equal to minus 36. So what we need then is we need x to be by itself. So we can divide both sides by minus 9. And we'll be left that x is equal to 4. Now we can check back. So step 3 was eliminate y. We've got that done. And step 4 was to find x. We've got that done too. Then we can write out the top line. So we have 3x plus 6y equals 72. So to find y, first of all, we're going to replace x with 4. So we get 3 times 4 plus 6y equals 72. So 3 times 4 is 12. So 12 plus 6y is equal to 72. Then we need the y to be on one side and everything else to be on the other. So we can minus 12 from both sides. We'll end up that 6y is equal to 60, and again we need y, so we can divide both sides by 6, and we'll be left that y is equal to 10. So from solving this simultaneous equation, we're left that x is 4 and y is 10. Now looking at some of the questions that you're going to be doing, they're very similar to the examples I've done here. So exercise 6 this is, and you can see that in question 1, question 2 and question 3, it has very similar to the example 1 that I did. So the sum of two numbers is 12, so the two numbers we have are x and y, and twice one of the numbers is added to 3 times the other number. So twice one of the numbers, so 2 times x, plus 3 times the other number, so 3y is equal to 31. Find the two numbers. It's just trying to figure out what we have to do to x and y to make it into a simultaneous equation, and that's the same for 1, 2 and 3. Question 4 and 5 are real life examples and are very similar to the question I did previous to this slide, so example number 3. And questions 6, 7, 8 are very similar to example 3 that I did too. So we're going to be working on these for the next few days. It takes a bit of practice, and the first time you do it will be quite hard, but once you kind of get a bit of practice and do a few more, it'll start to make much more sense. The key thing to remember is if they're talking about two numbers, the two numbers that we have are x and y, and we're forming simultaneous equations. Remember what the word sum means, remember what the word difference means, remember what the word less means, and just give it your best go to try and form the simultaneous equations. We're quite good at solving the simultaneous equations now, so once you can get the simultaneous equation formed, that would be really, really good. So if there is any problems, send me an email straight away. But I'm hoping after watching this video, you can give a few of the questions a good go before you get in contact with me. That then is the end of this video.